I would
die.
go very fast.
Hi, folks.
Hello.
How are y'all?
Where's Alexis?
Not in here.
I'm doing good. Oh, Miss McClellan. I read a story where the main character, he's got isekai and went to the another world, and he brought up this important factor on war and, well, the basic function of war. You need to have the will to kill, and please tell me you can hear me.
I can hear you now. I lost a little bit of it because I was plugging in my computer.
Let me get answer the boy. There's a character I like where he exposed the nature of war, and in war you can't be a nice guy. You have to have the instinct to kill. You have to pull the trigger. Where he was talking down to this generic, self-righteous idiot, and he brings him down to earth and tells him, you need to kill and you need to be a monster to win a war.
Ooh.
Do you agree or disagree with that?
No, I disagree with that.
Really? Why?
You have to be a monster to win a war? No, I think sometimes it's just people's job. And they're just doing what they gotta do.
Well, I actually agree with the idea. Just you have to be a monster. You have to kill. You can't just be like, I gotta do this for my country. No, you're doing it just to do it, you know?
Well, I don't think everybody is just doing it just to do it, though. Like, some people sign up for the military, but it's not because they are like hungry to kill somebody. It's just their job.
Yeah. Well, that's just my interpretation. Later.
Randall. Okay, let's see.
I stole your jacket again because you're unappreciative towards the clothes that I get you.
You never gave it to me.
Yes, I did, homie.
No, you didn't.
I stole your jacket too.
CC.
Oh,
Yeah, we stole both your jackets and your sweatpants.
Why?
Zane.
They're my clothes, not yours.
Because you don't want to come to my house and sit on a bed while I throw items around my room aggressively.
Well, I mean, I think
We got beef. What do you mean?
I don't know, do I count the ones that's always on the back wall also? Because there's like a whole bunch of them.
Oh,
I got gold.
I think all of them.
Oh gosh.
Maybe I'll like walk around a little later.
You
and
can
try
bring
to-
your little cart.
I can bring my. It's so loud when you roll it around in the hallways, though. To be honest, I like brought it to somebody else's room the other day, and I was like, "Sorry, it's so loud."
Can I have a cup and a spoon?
Yeah, you can have a cup and a spoon.
Is it really?
Like, it doesn't seem that loud in here, but like out in the hall when you're rolling it,
Oh, yeah, that floor.
yeah.
Are these cups DC?
Is it what?
Are these cups coffee?
It's McClellan.
I
Can
don't-
you tell
I don't
Alexis
know.
and Kat to stop stealing my clothes?
Alexis and Kat, Alyssa would like you to stop stealing her clothes.
Yes, it would be greatly appreciated.
I respectfully decline.
That's kind of rude.
Unfortunately, that extra large pair of sweatpants that I spent 5 minutes scraping the floor of my job for isn't good enough for
You
me.
gave them to me. I
By
haven't
the way, made sure it was the double soft one, boyfriend extra large. So, you know, but it's whatever.
I haven't seen you since you got those for me.
You were going to see me today. I'm literally.
Seeing her right now. There's her face.
I see you. Hi.
Connect.
I'll come over later. Okay, is that what you want? Okay.
Yes. That's all I want. Okay.
Oh my gosh. Like, the effect of that on Zoom is wild. I feel like I'm at a rave. She's using it. Like, I feel like I could watch that for hours, but
It is kind of mesmerizing.
isn't it?
It's like a robot taking your picture, Loki. Like the red flash.
Yeah.
Is this what Men in Black looks like
That's
when you?
exactly what I was gonna say. It's like the Men in Black thing. Yes.
It looks like it's like
Now my memory is completely gone. I have no idea what we're doing today.
I canceled class. no. But come to my house today and sit on my bed. I won't even make you clean. Goodness, because apparently that's an issue.
Show the background.
Oh, yeah,
No
we-
one can make you clean. You're in charge of your own destiny.
That is not true.
Oh,
They can make me clean.
I like your lights and your tapestry. That's cool.
Thank you. Yeah, we just cleaned Kat's room.
Again.
And then we're waiting for Alyssa to get her check so that we can get her decorations for her room. Because she doesn't even have her room decorated. She just has a bed on the floor in like a random room in her house. She don't even live there. She's a temporary visitor.
That's such like a man in his early 20s move. Like every man in his early 20s just has like a mattress on the floor. Like
Oh.
everything's low to the ground. He'll just have like a cup.
But we're
next
waiting
to
for
his
her
bed.
to get her check so that she can get decorations for her
That's
room.
very
Dang.
nice.
Your room and get your room ready for the kittens and everything.
Aw. Yeah, that's fair. Speaking of kittens and cats, Miss Cathan has been giving her cat these like calming treats so that he doesn't run wild at night. And yesterday the cat got into it and ate like 22 of them. And like apparently it's fine. There's no like risk of overdose or anything. I looked at the ingredients and it's not even like CBD or anything like that. But I was just like, I'm sure that he didn't give you any trouble last night. And she's like, he was out.
I saw those at Petco.
Apparently they're pretty good. They're effective.
Yeah, I saw like CBD clothes for dogs.
Yeah. My sister's dog has a lot of anxiety and they give her CBD. She's insane.
I have a question.
Promise.
I have
Yeah.
a question. What does a dog have anxiety about? Like, what is going through the dog's head where it just gets anxiety? That cannot
I
be a real thing.
completely agree.
Yeah.
She like can't be around other
Separation
dogs. She
anxiety, I
freaks
guess.
out. And also this dog is so neurotic. I'm not kidding here. She ate off her own tail. Like, and it's a big dog and she had a big tail. And like my sister came home one day and she had been crated and she was like, I thought that someone had been murdered because it was just so like bloody and horrible. And she like, at first she ate off like half of her tail and then they had to like bandage it and heal it and everything. And once it was healed, she ate off the rest of it.
Java!
It's insane.
That's the baby daddy.
Look at that little fat face. I love it.
Yeah, I know he's got chubby cheeks.
He does. I love them. I'm gonna pinch him. There's an apartment cat at my apartment that will like he plays so hot and cold with me.
He's
Like-
Java is a beast.
He's
He's built like a beast. He's built
He's
like a
a
machine.
monster.
He's like a muscle cat.
like a bodybuilder cat.
Or
Hello,
he's like-
Randall. Where's Randall?
He's counting parts.
Well, I think he went to go get coffee for Miss Owens, which I'm like, you really shouldn't take advantage of her that way, but I'm half hoping he'll bring me some too. So he's around. He'll be back. There are a lot of hearts. I'm gonna have to count them later. Maybe during my last planning period, I'll count them. Anyway, we need to get started because we are going to read a chapter today. And then I'm going to upload one more thing to Canvas. So let's go ahead. We've already wasted actually not a whole 10 minutes. We're okay. I'm going to share my screen with you guys so that we can look at this story together. Novel. Move that guy over there. You can see it. Yeah, the guys. Oh, you were in here yesterday when the guys came in and fooled around with this for ages, even though it seemed like they did not know what they were doing. I feel like they were trying really hard to be funny.
Yeah,
It was like that's like let me just get on with class, man. So somebody, before we start reading, somebody like recap what Ethan's relationship with the two women in his life is like.
Okay, so
You both of you said, okay, so.
first woman, the one with the X, I don't remember her name. That's his wife, and she and him don't really have that great of a relationship, I would say, mainly because she's jealous of her cousin, which I don't remember her name either. but the cousin came to live with them to help take care of the wife, and then all of a sudden Ethan started taking better care of himself, and the wife noticed, and she's been throwing out little hints and little petty comments here and there about him taking better care of himself while the wife is, or while the cousin is there. And
Yep.
so it's kind of a weird tension between him and his wife, and the wife between the cousin, but the cousin most likely doesn't have any tension between them.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good summary. Yeah, like I think where we left off, Xena was like making those little comments. Xena, the wife, was making those little comments about like, oh, now that you're shaving every day, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, thought she wouldn't notice that, even though you do kind of notice that sort of thing, like especially if you're living with somebody in close quarters, like you notice when they kind of switch up their routine. So she's not dumb, she's annoying. She is like very nagging, very like complaining, but she's not dumb. And these first few chapters are really interesting just because of like particularly in the prologue, the kind of flashbacks, time jumps, all this kind of stuff where we're like getting background about what's happened to Ethan and like how he has come to be sort of like just bogged down in this life. And obviously this is going to have quite a lot to do with it. The main plot of this story is him trying to deal with his feelings for Maddie and what that means for his marriage. So let's continue. We got a lot of info in the last chapter, but the way it started was that Ethan was picking Maddie up from like a church social or like a dance. So we're kind of going back to that point. And he was also like peering in the windows jealously while she danced with other men, even though he has no right to be jealous. Would anyone like to read?
Yes.
Okie doke.
Where are we reading from?
It's right here at the top of chapter 2.
Okay. As the dancers poured out of the hall, Frome, drawing back behind the projecting storm door, watched the segregation of the grotesquely muffled groups in which a moving lantern ray now and then lit up a face flushed with food and dancing. The villagers, being afoot, were the first to climb the slope to the main street, while the country neighbors packed themselves more slowly into the sleighs under the shed. "Ain't you writin', Maddie?" a woman's voice called back from the throng about the shed, and Ethan's heart gave a jump. From where he stood, he could not see the persons coming out of the hall till they had advanced a few steps beyond the wooden sides of the storm door. But through its cracks he heard a clear voice. Mercy, no, not on such a night. She was there, then close to him, only a thin board between. In another moment she would step forward into the night, and his eyes, accustomed to the obscurity, would discern her as clearly as though she stood in daylight. A wave of shyness pulled him back in the dark angle of the wall, and he stood there in silence instead of making his presence known to her. It had been one of the wonders of their intercourse that from the first she, the quicker, finer, more expressive, instead of crushing him by the contrast, had given him something of her own ease and freedom. But now he felt as heavy and loudish,
Yeah. Like a big, stupid idiot.
as in his student days, when he had tried to jolly the worstest girls at a picnic. He hung back, and she came out alone, paused within a few yards of him. She was almost the last to leave the hall, she stood looking uncertainly about her, as if wondering why he did not show himself. Then a man's figure approached, coming so close to her that under the formless wrappings they seemed merged in one dim outline. "Gentleman friend gone back on you? Say, Matt, that's tough. No, I wouldn't be mean enough to tell the other girls. I ain't as low down as that." How Frome hated his cheap banter. "But look here, ain't it lucky I got the old man's cutter down there waiting for us?" From her, the girl's voice, gaily incredulous. What on earth's your father's cutter doing down there? Why, waiting for me to take a ride. I got the roan colt too. I kinda knew I'd want to take a ride tonight. Edie, in his triumph, tried to put a sentimental note into his bragging voice. The girls seemed to waver, and Frome saw her twirl the end of her scarf irresolutely about her fingers. Not for the world would he have made a sign to her, though it seemed to him that his life hung on her next gesture. Hold on a minute while I unhitch the colt, Dennis called to her, springing toward the shed. She stood perfectly still, looking after him in an attitude of tranquil expectancy, torturing to the hidden watcher. Frome noticed that she no longer turned her head from side to side as though peering through the night for another figure. She let Dennis Edie lead out the horse, climb into the cutter, and fling back the bearskin to make room for her at his side. With a swift motion of flight, she turned about and darted up the slope toward the front of the church. Goodbye, hope you'll have a lovely ride, she called back to him over her shoulder. Dennis laughed and gave the horse a cut that brought him quickly abreast of her retreating figure. Come along, get in quick. It's as slippery as thunder on this turn, he cried, leaning over to reach out a hand to her. She laughed back at him. Good night, I'm not getting in. By this time, they had passed beyond Frome's earshot, and he could only follow the shadowy pantomime of their silhouettes as they continued to move along the crest of the slope above him. He saw Edie after a moment jump from the cutter and go toward the girl with the reins over one arm. The other he tried to slip through hers, but she eluded him nimbly, and Frome's heart, which had swung out over a black void, trembled back to safety. A moment later, he heard the jingle of departing sleigh bells and discerned a figure advancing alone toward the empty expanse of the snow before the church.
All right, so one of the things that is particularly relevant in these first few chapters is Ethan is really having a lot of feelings for this girl, and obviously kind of wondering if maybe if his feelings are returned. Leaving aside the fact that he is a married man and shouldn't be concerned about a thing like that. One of the sort of questions that arises for us is also, does she have feelings for him in return? And this scene doesn't show us that she does, but you know, he's been watching her dance with this Dennis Edie guy and being jealous about it. But Dennis Edie wants to give her a ride home, and she's like, no, like I'm fine. I'm just gonna walk. And he is really like forward with her, like whatever you like 1890s version of forward. So he's like, oh come on, like come with me on my horse, and she's like no, and he like tries to put his arm around her, and she's like nope, no thank you. But really nice towards him, you know, not like get away from me you creep. She's just like, I'm not interested, like let's just let me do my thing. I hope you have a nice night, goodbye. So maybe all it is that she doesn't care about this guy. It doesn't mean she does have feelings for Ethan, but obviously like Ethan watching this whole thing is like, oh shoot, she doesn't want to be with that guy. That makes me feel a lot better because I've been jealous about him, and now I know she's not interested. He has a wife. He should not be caring about any of this, but he is. I feel like I had one more thing that I wanted to bring up, but I can't remember. So let's keep reading and maybe it'll come to me.
Wait. Go back up.
You're there.
Oh, okay. In the black shade of the Varnum spruces, he caught up with her, and she turned with a quick, oh, think I'd forgotten about you, Matt? He asked with a sheepish glee. She answered seriously. I thought maybe you couldn't come back for me. Couldn't? What on earth could stop me? I knew Zena wasn't feeling any too good today. Oh, she's in bed long ago. He paused, a question struggling in him. Then you meant to walk home all alone? Oh, I ain't afraid, she laughed. They stood together in the gloom of the spruces, an empty world glimmering about them, white and gray under the stars. He brought his question up. If you thought I hadn't come, why didn't you ride back with Dennis Edie? Why? Where were you? How did you know? I never saw you. Her wonder and his laughter ran together like spring rose in a thaw. Ethan had the sense of having done something arch and ingenious. To prolong the effect, he groped for a dazzling phrase and brought out in a growl of rapture, "Come along." He slipped an arm through hers as Edie had done and fancied it was faintly pressed against her side, but neither of them moved. It was so dark under the spruces that he could barely see the shape of her head beside his shoulder. He longed to stoop his cheek and rub it against her scarf. He would have liked to stand there with her all He would have liked to stand there with her all night in the blackness. She moved forward a step or two, then paused against the dip of the Corbury Road. Its icy slopes scored by innumerable runners looked like a mirror scratched by travelers at an inn. There was a whole lot of them coasting before the moon set, she said. Would you like to come in and coast with them some night? He asked. Oh, would you, Ethan? It would be lovely. We'll come tomorrow if there's a moon. She lingered, pressing closer to his side. Ned Hale and Ruth Varnum came just as near running into the big elm at the bottom. We were all sure they were killed. Her shiver ran down his arm. Wouldn't it have been too awful? They're so happy. Oh, Ned ain't much at staring. I guess I can take you down all right, he said disdainfully. He was aware that he was talking big like Dennis Edie, but his reaction of joy had unsteadied him, and the inflection with which she had said of the engaged couple, "They're so happy," made the words sound as if she had been thinking of herself and him. The elm is dangerous, though. It ought to be cut down, she insisted.
Coasting, by the way, sorry, coasting is like sledding. I feel like I just want to clear that up because they talk about coasting kind of a lot in this book. But also, this is the most annoyed that I get at Ethan, not just because he's flirting with this woman who is not his wife, but how he's like, oh, I'm so good at sledding. If you're gonna come, like, if you're gonna do it with anybody, you should sled with me because I'm very good at steering, and this other man is very bad at it. And I'm like, how is that something you're gonna brag about? I'm so into sledding. What? Yes, Randall would like to read.
Go ahead.
Can y'all hear him from here? Say something.
Barely.
Barely. You know, like move closer to these. I don't really know which one is like picking up the voice. Can you see if you sit right there? We're getting him situated. Okay. Yeah.
Will you be afraid of it with me? I told you I ain't the kind to be afraid. She tossed back almost indifferently. I said that right.
Uh-huh.
And suddenly she began to walk on with a rapid step. These alterations of mood were the despair and joy of Ethan from the emotions of her mind were as
Incalculable.
incalculable as the flick of a bird in the branches. The fact that he had no right to show his feelings and thus provoke the expression of hers made him attach a fantastic importance to every change in her look and tone. Now he thought she understood him and feared. Now he was sure she did not, and despaired tonight. The pressure of
Accumulated.
misgivings sent the scale moving towards despair, and her indifference was more chilling after the flush of joy into which she had plunged him by dismissing Dennis Edie. He mounted Full House with Hill at her side and walked on in silence till they reached the lane leading to the sawmill. Walked on in silence till they reached home.
I said that.
Then the need of some definite assurance grew strong for him. You have to find you you have found me right off if you hadn't gone back to have that last meal with Dennis. He brought out awkwardly. He could not pronounce the name without a stiffening of the muscles of his throat. Why, Ethan? How could I were tell you were there?
Let's actually pause here for a minute. I want to talk about this because it's annoying to me. I feel like there's so much tension in this chapter, and genuinely, like, we have to remember that this is a realist novel, because honestly, for a lot of it, it does sort of just seem like it's an unrequited love story. It's much more than that, because obviously this guy's married, his life's kind of horrible.
Sorry
His
about
life
that,
and
Mr.
his
Clark.
wife.
Oh,
Oh, that's all
Wi-Fi
right.
just went out, like completely went out.
It happens.
Yeah.
It's fine. So we just have to remember that, like, this is probably not going to have a happy ending, because the whole thing about realism is that it shows harsh realities, real reality, you know. And I feel like it's easy to kind of, the author does a really good job of, like, explaining what it's like in someone's head when they are in, like, an unrequited love type situation, because he's just, like, analyzing her every move and, like, getting so excited when she turns down this other guy and feeling like that has anything to do with him. Like, we don't know that it does, but then he, like, right here, where the last thing that Randall just read is, like, he's basically saying, like, oh, well, you'd have found me right away if you hadn't gone back in to have that last dance with Dennis. And she's like, oh, I didn't even know that you were there. And he's like, well, I mean, you could have just not danced with Dennis. And I'm like, she's not your girlfriend. She is not your girlfriend. And,
It
like,
doesn't matter, like, whether or not she has feelings for him. It's that he has a whole life.
exactly. That's such a good point.
I wonder if she knows that he has a wife.
Well, yeah,
She
she's
she
taking
does,
care of
yeah,
him.
she's taking care of his wife. She's his wife's cousin, so she knows. And, like,
But he don't know.
yeah, he knows he has a wife. Yeah, he just is like,
knows that. She knows that.
Mhm.
they're aware of their relationships, but, you know,
Why she ain't saying nothing?
I'm gonna be real, like, knowing that somebody is not available doesn't prevent you from having feelings for them. Like, you can't always control how you feel. You can control what you do about it. And I don't think that he's making wise choices. He needs to settle down and be like, you know, even if I do have some feelings towards her, I'm married, I'm committed to this person, I need to help take care of her. Like, that's my wife. That's what I need to do.
Like, you said vows, you committed, you have a ring on your finger. You are
Yeah.
there. You cannot be flirting with other girls.
Exactly. And I feel like I don't want to completely, like, blame him and say he's a terrible person, because he has kind of a horrible life. Like, he's stuck in this town. He never got to do what he wanted to do with his life. His wife's kind of terrible. And then, like, this beautiful young girl who's, like, really sweet to him comes along and just kind of, like, brightens up his life. And I can see why he would want to, like, you know, he's drawn to that and he wants to have as much of that as he can, but he can't have it all. He cannot have both. So annoying. I hate that bell. So yeah, let's just keep going. I just wanted to point that out, like, his kind of two sides there. Right here. Do you want to keep going?
Yeah.
Okay.
I suppose that folks say it's true. He jerked out at her instead of answering. She stood. She stopped short and felt in the darkness that her face was lifted quickly to his. Why would do folks say? It's natural enough. You should be leaving us. He fluttered on following his following his thought. Is that what they say? She mocked back at him, then with a sudden drop of her sweet treble. You mean that Zena ain't suited with me anymore? She flattered, and she faltered. Their arms had still slipped apart, and they stood motionless, each seeking to distinguish the other's face. I know I ain't anything like as smart as I ought to be. She went on while he vainly struggled for expression. There's lots of things a hired girl could do that come awkward to me still, and I haven't got much strength in my arms. But if she only tells me I tried, you know, she hardly ever says anything. And sometimes I can see she ain't suited, and yet I don't know why. She turned on him with a sudden flash
Of
indignation.
indignation.
Indignation. You ought to tell me, Ethan, from you ought to, unless you want me to go to, unless you wanted her to go to. The cry was gone to his rock room. The iron heavens seemed to melt and rain down sweetness. Again, he struggled for the all-expressive words, and again his arms in hers found only a deep hum alone. They walked on in silence through the blackness of the hamlet shaded lane, where Ethan saw her bloom through the night and out again into the comparative
Mhm.
clearness of the field. On the farther side of the hemlock belt, the open country rolled away before them, gray and lonely under the stars. Sometimes there they led them under the shade of an overhanging bank or through the thin obscurity of a clump of leafless trees. Here and there a farmhouse stood far back among the fields, mute and cold a gravestone. The night was so still that they heard the frozen crackle under their feet, the crash of a loaded branch falling far off in the woods. Rever- rever-
Reverberated.
reverberated like a musket shot. And once a fox barked and Maddie shrank closer to Ethan and quickened her steps. At, at length, they sighted the group of larches at Ethan's gate, and as they drew near it, the sense that the walk was over brought back his words. Then you don't want me to then you don't want to leave us, Matt. He had to stoop his head to catch her stifled whisper. Where
Stifled. Yeah.
I vote if I did. You want to read?
Hmm?
You want to read?
Yeah, I'll read. First of all, I just had the question, what in the world is Matt or Maddie short for? Like, I have no idea what woman's name starts with Matt. I can't think of one. It's not related to, I mean, it's not like important, but Matheson. Could be Matheson. I don't know. I never heard of a girl named Matthew. Yeah, like if it was D's, it could be Madeline or Madeline or Madison, but I don't know. I was just thinking actually though about, I think it was the Crucible when we were like, why don't these people just communicate? Like, why don't they just talk to each other about John Proctor and his wife?
That's exactly what this sounds like.
That's exactly what this sounds like. And they're like kind of unintentionally hurting each other's feelings because he thinks that she wants to leave and she thinks that he wants her to leave. And they can't just say, like, I'm happy here. I don't want to leave. I don't want you to leave. Like, it's so stilted and awkward. And like, I guess he probably doesn't want to just come right out and be like, I'm in love with you. I want you to stay. But, and she would probably feel very awkward being like, I wouldn't mind staying. You hit me my what? They might get caught up. We're going to see. I hardly see how it could end well. Like, is he just gonna, if they run off together, then what's gonna happen to his sickly wife? Like, she needs somebody to take care of her.
He obviously doesn't care.
He seems to not care. Maddie seems to care more.
Exactly. Like,
I know.
it just upsets me. Like, why? How do you just actively?
And I feel like she kind of upsets me too. Like, I'm not upset with her, but like, she's so self-deprecating. She's like, I know I'm not very smart. I know I'm not very helpful around the house or anything. And like, I try, but I'm just not smart enough.
It sounds like she's fishing for compliments.
It does sound a little bit like that. But I feel like just do your best and don't worry. Like, don't worry too much about whether you're upsetting Xena or not. Xena seems easily upset. So I feel like she just needs to kind of recognize that.
Xena's upset because she can obviously tell.
She can tell. And even if Maddie doesn't have any feelings for Ethan, it's very hard not to like have negative feelings towards the person that your husband has feelings for. Like, even if it's not their fault, you kind of feel like it's their fault. Not that I know. I don't have a husband, but I'm just going to quickly look and see. Okay, yeah, we can finish this. They turned in at the gate and passed under the shaded knoll where, enclosed in a low fence, the Frome gravestones slanted at crazy angles through the snow. Ethan looked at them curiously. For years, that quiet company had mocked his restlessness, his desire for change and freedom. We never got away. How should you? Seemed to be written on every headstone. And whenever he went in or out of the gate, he thought with a shiver, I shall just go on living here till I join them. It's a very dark thought. But now all desire for change had vanished, and the sight of the little enclosure gave him a warm sense of continuance and stability. I guess we'll never let you go, Matt, he whispered, as though even the dead lovers, even the dead lovers once. I was like, why is there a comma between dead lovers?
Can we just point out the fact that this is just written like so grammatically incorrect? Like, there are pauses when there don't need to be, and then there should be pauses and there aren't. And it's
You're
very
right.
hard to read.
It is hard. In this instance, I thought that it was a comma that didn't need to be there, but I get it now. I get what they're doing. But there was a couple of places where I was like, oh, there should be a comma here. As though even the dead, lovers once, must conspire with him to keep her, like the dead people in the ground that he is so relating to right now. And like, you know, all those times you pass by a graveyard and you're like, oh, visions of the future.
I don't think we know that, but if I'd be a lot more depressed.
Yeah.
Like, that's just not.
It's not, I don't think it's super healthy to be like, oh, man, those dead people really get me. What? Oh, yeah. His wife seems like she's close to dying, to be honest. Like, she's not well. But he's not focused on that. No. like, even though Xena's the one who is the closest to actually being dead, he's like, oh, these dead people, they're just like me. Okay, Ethan. Okay, it gets worse. We'll always go on living here together, and someday she'll lie there beside me. What? I can't wait for us both to die and be together forever. It's gross. It's so gross. I can't imagine.
People in those graves. Yeah, that's gonna be us.
It's gonna be us one day. I can't wait for that to be us. And he's like excited about it. Like he loves this idea of them being dead in the ground together because at least they'd be together. It's messed up. Okay, let's read. So we only got 10 minutes left. He let the vision possess him as they climbed the hill to the house. He was never so happy with her as when he abandoned himself to these dreams. Halfway up the slope, Maddie stumbled against some unseen obstruction and clutched his sleeve to steady herself. Sorry, the fact that it says unseen obstruction makes me think she's faking it, and she's like, oops, oh no, Ethan. Can you catch me? I'm like, that's not, I'm making that up, but I just got that impression. The wave of warmth that went through him was like the prolongation of his vision. For the first,
So deep.
it's so deep, I know. He's like really in his own thoughts about this. For the first time, he stole his arm about her, and she did not resist. They walked on as if they were floating on a summer stream. Well, okay, like she almost fell. Maybe she needs the support. Xena always went to bed as soon as she had had her supper, and the shutterless windows of the house were dark. A dead cucumber vine dangled from the porch like the crepe streamer tied to the door for a death. All this death. And the thought flashed through Ethan's brain. If it was there for Xena... He's basically like wishing his wife was dead. It's so messed up. This guy.
He should be doing is being on a walk with his wife.
He should be on a walk with his wife. Take her out for some fresh air. It might do her some good. Instead, he's like, oh, someone's died in this house. If only it were my wife. Then he had a distinct sight of his wife lying in their bedroom asleep, her mouth slightly open, her false teeth in a tumbler by the bed. Hot. They walked around to the back of the house between the rigid gooseberry bushes. It was Xena's habit when they came back late from the village to leave the key of the kitchen door under the mat. Ethan stood before the door, his head heavy with dreams, his arms still about Maddie. Matt, he began, not knowing what he meant to say. She slipped out of his hold without speaking, and he stooped down and felt for the key. It's not there, he said, straightening himself with a start. They strained their eyes at each other through the icy darkness. Such a thing had never happened before. Maybe she's forgotten it, Maddie said in a tremulous whisper, but both of them knew it was not like Xena to forget. She's locking them out in the snow. I mean, like, power move, honestly. She could just be like, oops, I forgot. It might have fallen off into the snow, Maddie continued, after a pause during which they had stood intently listening. It must have been pushed off then, he rejoined in the same tone. Another wild thought tore through him. What if tramps had been there? What if, and tramps back then meant like hobos. So he's sort of like, oh, what if somebody broke into my house? Maybe they've killed my wife.
He's like, yes.
That'd be convenient. He's so these ideas he's having are really not okay. Again, he listened, fancying he heard a distant sound in the house. Then he felt in his pocket for a match and kneeling down, passed its light slowly over the rough edges of snow about the doorstep. He was still kneeling when his eyes, on a level with the lower panel of the door, caught a faint ray beneath it. Who could be stirring in that silent house? He heard a step on the stairs, and again for an instant the thought of tramps tore through them. Then the door opened, and he saw his wife. My wife, against the dark background. Against the dark background of the kitchen, she stood up tall and angular, one hand drawing a quilted counterpane to her flat breast while the other held a lamp, not a tramp. The light on a level with her chin drew out of the darkness her puckered throat and the projecting wrist of the hand that clutched the quilt, and deepened fantastically the hollows and prominences of her high-boned face under its ring of crimping pins. To Ethan, still in the rosy haze of his hour with Maddie, the sight came with the intense precision of the last dream before waking. He felt as if he had never before known what his wife looked like. To be fair, she doesn't seem to be a great beauty. She seems like she's really like thin and gaunt and flat chested, and she's got hairpins in, and like she's not well. I don't think you really get to be like, ugh, my wife is so gross. Like she's on her deathbed. Like, of course she looks a little different than she did when you married her at 20 whatever. He drew aside without speaking, and Maddie and Ethan passed into the kitchen, which had the deadly chill of a vault after the dry cold of night. Guess you forgot about us, Xena, Ethan joked, stamping snow from his boots. No, I just felt so mean I couldn't sleep. Not mean, like, she doesn't mean like, I felt like such a jerk. Like, just that she felt bad. She felt unhealthy, unwell. Maddie came forward, unwinding her wraps, the color of the cherry scarf in her fresh lips and cheeks. Sorry, I just remembered that I said we were going to do color symbolism stuff. I just want to make myself a note. Color symbolism. Okay. I'm so sorry, Xena. Isn't there anything I can do? No, there's nothing. Xena turned away from her. You might have shook off that snow outside, she said to her husband. She walked out of the kitchen ahead of them and, pausing in the hall, raised the lamp at arm's length as if to light them up the stairs. Ethan paused also, affecting to fumble for a peg on which he hung his coat and cap. The doors of the two bedrooms faced each other across the narrow upper landing, and tonight it was particularly repugnant to him that Maddie should see him follow Xena. Like, he doesn't want her to know they share a bed. Like, they're married, it's fine. I guess I won't come up yet a while, he said, turning as if to go back to the kitchen. Sorry. Xena stopped short and looked at him. For the land's sake, what are you going to do down here? I've got the mill accounts to go over. She continued to stare at him, the flame of the unshaded lamp bringing out with microscopic cruelty the fretful lines of her face. At this time of night, you'll catch your death. The fire's out long ago. Without answering, he moved away toward the kitchen. As he did so, his glance crossed Maddie's, and he fancied that a fugitive warning gleamed through her lashes. The next moment, they sank to her flushed cheeks, and she began to mount the stairs ahead of Xena. That's so. It's powerful cold down here, Ethan assented, and with lowered head, he went up in his wife's wake and followed her across the threshold of their room. Okay, so this is a tense chapter, I feel like. Honestly, this is sort of a tense book. There's this impossible situation that doesn't really have a great solution. And we don't quite know yet. Do you guys at this point think that Maddie has feelings for him?
Yeah.
You think so? You think
100%.
so?
I'm not yet, but like she's definitely going to, because there's definitely something that she feels for him, like, a little bit, but it's not like obvious yet.
Yeah.
It's
And
like,
I feel like
it's like the crush with like a student and like the teacher, you know, how like in books, like it's that little kid crush, you know, type thing.
Yeah,
That's
I
what
get
that
that.
looks like.
That you like wouldn't expect to go anywhere, but like
Yeah.
if it's reciprocated from the other side, Pretty Little Liars, Arya and Ezra.
I've seen that entire show.
Me too. I love it. Yeah, like she hasn't made any kind of open declarations to him, and he hasn't really to her either, but it's just pretty obvious on his side. I think maybe there are reasons that she likes him apart from his sparkling personality. Like when they were talking about whether she was going to leave or not, she was like, I don't really have anywhere else to go. And he's nice to her. Xena might not be, but she's always been like kind of poor and not really had much going for her. She doesn't know how to do anything. And she's got a pretty good setup here. Like she gets to live with people who, you know, make sure that she's fed, they give her a roof over her head, and she does what she can to take care of Xena. So I'm sure she doesn't want to leave. We will find out like how much she feels for him and some of why later on. But it's just about time to leave. The bell's going to ring any second. So I will see you guys tomorrow.
Okay, bye.